How much time do you usually get to do the orchestrations? And how fast have you done them? And what happens when you don't have time and you maybe have to call in reinforcements?
Uh,
Well, sometimes a director says, well, Susan Stroman has always said I have to have everything done by the Zitz probe. Other directors have more leniency, and they say, if a couple of numbers trickle in after that, it's fine, because the trade-off would be that you get to do more of it and not have to bring in help. But in my experience, it can be 3.5 weeks, 4.5 weeks.
that's
Jonathan,
about
but
right.
you're going to answer the same.
Harold,
That's about 3.5, 4 weeks. When I moved to California, I said, I missed that first day where you meet the cast and everybody, I would fly in a week later. They've had a week to work. I'd come in on Friday night of the first week, go to rehearsal and see just a terrible run through of everything on Saturday, and lay out my desk in the hotel and do everything and get ready. But I always said, give me at least 3 things to do over that weekend. It must be something that you're happy with, that is not going to change. And that's it. So I think 3.5 to 4 weeks is about it, because then you're into tech rehearsals, your orchestra rehearsals and the tech rehearsals, and then the sits probe when the cast comes in. I have never had, more than a month at any point. And you get used to it, and you meet that deadline, and I work better at night. A friend of mine is not with us anymore. Michael Gibson used to get up at 6 in the morning, have breakfast, and start work until dinner time, have dinner, spend time with the family, and that was it. Me, it's just the opposite. 8:30 in the evening, I start writing, and I write until the sun comes up. It's quiet, phone doesn't ring, and I just continue that regimen until, and I was smoking then, so I was smoking probably a half a pack of cigarettes a night, and I was also sipping. I got this bad habit of sipping cognac when I wrote, until I remember picking up a bottle, saying, and it was the bottle. This is the 5th. The bottle. I remember when I started, I took the wrapping off, and I said, it was after that, and it was nothing except, you did this in one night. Never touched cognac after that. Maybe I'd have one screwdriver to perk me up, and that was it. But, and I went to the doctor once and told him about how much I was drinking, and he said, and you're still alive? Because I've been doing this for 8, 10 years. So, but, I allow them the time for 1 week, give me something when I come in. And then after that, it's a straight roll, keeps going.
Jonathan, I understand you once did a speed orchestration?
Oh, I've done a lot of those.
Yeah.
I'm a night owl too, as Harold well knows. The amount of time given, it's basically the rehearsal schedule. The orchestrator begins work just about the time the cast goes into rehearsal, and something is ready to show me. As soon as they'll let me start on it, I will, and I have until, we try to get everything done for orchestra rehearsal, and sometimes we do, but we have the whole load-in period, the tech rehearsals, the dress rehearsals, and even the first few previews to get the last of it in.
If there are
Naomi, if I may say, I realize that for those not familiar with this, the key thing that this all sounds very strange. The answer to it is that we don't start, or we don't even like to start, until they're in rehearsal. Until a number is staged and set, we wouldn't work on it. Mm-hmm. So it's like if someone, well, why don't you just take a year to rearrange Kiss Me Kate and then show up at the orchestra rehearsal? So it's the limitation is on the front end.
That's really interesting. So it is that, it's like that, like Alex was saying, like, or, like the lighting director effect. You have to know what the actual number is going to be like before you do your magic.
Well, the choreographer has to say, yes, I'm happy with this version, or the director says, yes, I'm happy with the way the song is progressing here. And with a new show, it's trickier.
Everything has to be tailored to the production, every detail. And don't think they don't change it on us afterwards. We spend a lot of our time making what we consider frivolous changes to already excellent work. That goes on a lot.
And I was going to say, I'm extremely fortunate, and back to Jonathan describing the charmed life. I'm fortunate in that the shows I've worked on, they're shows that I had been the music director for several workshops and several drafts and readings, so that when I knew that the show was actually going to happen, I would have multiple months to orchestrate ahead of time, because once I became into rehearsals, I wouldn't have enough time to orchestrate when I got home. Because as a music director, I'd be there for 8 hours of rehearsal. When you come home, you're exhausted. You don't have much creative energy left. But yeah, that's why I'm extremely fortunate that because I knew Hamilton was going to off-Broadway, I think it took me probably, I started orchestrating in June, and rehearsals didn't even start until November. But I could only do that because I knew the songs that were going to be staying. I knew, we had done enough workshops. I had lived inside the music enough to know the inner workings of it, and knowing what was going to be staying, what was going to be going. I was able to kind of be on the ground floor. So that is a blessing, and I acknowledge that.
So speaking of Hamilton, let's hear some music from Hamilton. And before we hear this, Alex, please tell us what to listen for, because there's a really special instrument in here.
Yes. So the clip I have is from the song "The Room Where It Happens," which is in Act 2. And the banjo in that song in the orchestration gets a lot of attention. And that was a fun moment, because you don't expect to hear the banjo in a show that is based primarily in hip hop and contemporary music, to throw in a banjo. But I was able to go back and look at some old emails and find out what the genesis of that was. Now, obviously that song, when Lynn wrote it, you could tell that it had a very kind of grindy, like very kind of low muscular feel to it. And it felt pastiche. It felt like it was of another era. And it was, very clear that had undertones of Kander Ebb, and it sounded like Chicago. It sounded, it had that feel to it. And I know Andy Blankenbuehler, our choreographer, wanted to make sure that the orchestration felt grimy, that it felt something you could really kind of squeeze. And based on the arrangement that the makeup of the instruments that I had at the time, I wasn't sure where that grime was going to be coming from necessarily. And I pitched a bunch of ideas. I'm like, could it be a distorted guitar? Could it be like blues licks, like Stevie Ray Vaughan or something like that? And then Lynn said, no, that takes it too far away from Kander and Ebb. And once he reiterated that, I'm like, aha. And then when it came time to orchestrate it, I realized I needed the guitar to do something. And then I thought to myself, okay, this is either the coolest idea ever or the worst idea ever. But unfortunately, I made a demo for it. I proposed the idea, and they were keen on it. So I'm really happy with what that instrument adds to the flavor, because it instantly lets you know, oh, this is what the feel of the song is going to be. And it's juxtaposed in a way with other digital pop electronic instruments around it that make that color really stand out in a really fun way, I think.